Hi, Sharina. Hi, everyone. I'm Eidit. Nice to meet you. I'm a mental health therapist. I've been practicing in mental health for the last 14 years, and it's one of my passions. I have just been obsessed with humans and like why we do what we do. So I just got really excited to get into psychology early on. In the last 14 years of my life, I just also, like many of you, have probably seen mental illness and mental health, substance abuse, just all the things that our own community has suffered, and we've seen maybe in our own family, in our community, in the world. And so that has been one of the things that has drawn me to the field, is just my own personal lived experiences. And if I can serve and give back to my community, I'm more than excited and happy to. So I'm happy to answer questions, but first we're going to actually start with a meditation, and I'll do a guided meditation. I'll walk you through the benefits, the how, and then we're going to get into anxiety, and something that most people probably, if they didn't have anxiety before, definitely probably after everything that's going on in 2020, like you probably are experiencing anxiety to some level. So I'll go over what is anxiety and the symptoms and some prevention, some things that you can do today to really kind of combat that. And meditation is one thing that I have found for like the last couple years that I've just incorporated in my day-to-day that has been literally the game changer to my own well-being, my own sanity. It's helped improve my relationships. It's helped me stay grounded and focused. So it's one thing that I can offer as a gift to anyone that is struggling with anxiety, that meditation is something that has helped not only myself, but my clients. So we'll first start with breathing and like the correct way to breathing. This was like mind-blowing for me when I first realized I was stress breathing like probably my whole life. I'm here to meditate. Thank you so much. Yay, me too. So I want you to do one thing right now. Just put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just take a deep breath like you normally would. Just like breathe. And on that next inhale, I want you to just focus on the palm of your hand and notice if your belly goes out or in when you take a deep breath. So take a deep breath. Did your belly go out or did it go in? If you want to write in the comments, you want to out yourself. Hey, Crow, I see you. So if you took a deep breath in and your belly pushed out, yay for you. That means you're breathing correctly. You're getting all the oxygen in that you need. If you took a deep breath in and your belly went in, that means you're stress breathing. You're only getting about 70% of your oxygen. So the correct way to breathe, and that's what you'll use when we do the guided meditation, is take a deep breath in, pretend like you're smelling a flower, and your belly goes out into the palm of your hand. And then when you exhale, don't be shy, don't be embarrassed. Exhale with an open mouth. Go, just deflate, and your belly goes in. You literally feel that movement. So take a deep breath in through your nose, belly goes out, hold it for a couple seconds, and then exhale, open mouth, belly goes in. So I just want you to note right now how you're feeling. And then once we're done with the meditation, I want you to just notice the subtle difference between now and then after. So just get into a seated, comfortable position. I'm, not a rule follower in my life anyway. So if you want to lay down, if you want to sit up, if you want to do it standing, whatever feels comfortable for you and your body. This is about just like pay attention to that. And wherever you are, you can begin to just either have a gaze and look, keep your eyes half closed. You can look down or fully close your eyes. And whatever feels comfortable for you, because some people do not feel comfortable with their eyes closed. It's not safe in their body to do so. So if that's you today, no shame, it's okay. keep your eyes half open. But if you are comfortable, just close your eyes completely and just put one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And at the sound of my bell, like a little sound bowl, when I go like that, that means we're going to start the meditation, and I'll play some background music, and you just have to listen to the sound of my voice. That's it. It'll be for a few minutes, and then the sound of the bell again. That means we end meditation, and then we'll go into your questions and talk about anxiety. Sound good? Let me see some hearts. Let me know you're ready to go. I'm not going to start if there's no hearts. Come on, guys. I think frozen? No. Okay. Well, we're going to start. There's the hearts. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Just want to know you're there. Love you guys too. So close your eyes or have them half gazed. One hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. We're going to begin. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose with your eyes closed or half open. And now exhale, open mouth. Just let it out. I'm going to do 2 rounds like that. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Your belly pushes out into the palm of your hand. Hold it. And now exhale, open mouth. Release. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Belly pushes out into the palm of your hand. And as you exhale, release, open mouth. Just let it all out. Now you can gently put your hands in your lap if that feels comfortable for you. And all you're going to do is just listen to the sound of my voice. And just begin to do a body scan. Just beginning to notice how you feel in this moment. Just allowing and giving permission for whatever it is that needs to come up and show you how you feel. Removing the judgment. Just putting on pause your to-do list. Putting on pause everything else that's going on in the world. And just focusing on you. This is a meeting with yourself. It's sacred. It's beautiful, and protect it. And by protecting it, just removing the judgment that might come up with any thoughts that might arise. So if you become distracted by noise, physical sensation, or thoughts, that's okay. Just release. And come back to the sound of my voice and come back to your breath. Gently bring yourself back. Meditation is not about not having the thoughts. It's about just noticing and expanding and connecting with self. As your thoughts come by, just imagine them like clouds in the sky. They're just passing by. Just notice them and label them thinking. Each thought, just notice, remove the judgment just by labeling it thinking. It's not good, it's not bad. Your brain is just doing what it's designed to do, and that's to think. Now from this place again, rechecking with how you feel, asking yourself, how do I feel right now in this moment? And then beginning to do a body scan. And with that body scan, you're going to start from the top of your head and just beginning to notice any tension you might be holding in your neck, in your shoulders. And continuing to go down the rest of your body. Are you holding any tension in your belly, in your chest? Going down to your hips. All the way down to your thighs. down to your calves, down to your feet, noticing where you might be holding tension. Just gently begin to breathe into those spaces, maybe even gently moving your neck from side to side, releasing with every exhale a little bit of that tension. And then dropping your shoulders, just relaxing them, dropping your tongue from the roof of your mouth, opening up your mouth and jaw just slightly, just letting everything melt. And now squeeze your shoulders up to your ears. On the next inhale, squeeze, hold. And on the next exhale, drop your shoulders, release, open mouth. We're going to do that 2 more times. Squeeze your shoulders up to your ears, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Hold all that tension. And on the next exhale, open mouth, release, and drop. 1 more time, squeeze your shoulders up to your ears. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Hold that tension. On the next exhale, open mouth, release, and drop. And gently again, beginning to move your neck from side to side, maybe in circles. Just listening and tuning into what your body needs, what might feel good in this moment. And as we begin to come to a close, I just want you to imagine one thing that you can do for yourself today that would feel calming and soothing. Maybe it's taking a walk, taking a warm, long shower. What it is that your body is asking of you for rest. And just tuning in, dial in, and listen to it without judgment. And just visualize what that can look like for you. As you have that visual in your mind, just beginning to notice how it makes you feel to think about it. Notice the difference from when we first started meditating to right now in this moment. Any subtle shift that's taking place, just see that, notice it, and thank it. Thank yourself for leaning in, for tuning in to what you need, and holding a sacred meeting time with yourself. And as we begin to transition out, I just want you to begin to count backwards slowly from 10 to 1, taking your time. Just breathing along the way. And as you get to 1, you can gently begin to flutter your eyes open and come back into this space. All right, for those of you who joined those who had joined, welcome. Just wrapped up our meditation, and we'll get into talking about anxiety in a minute. But for those of you who started from the beginning and did the meditation, what was that like? Any subtle differences? Did you notice? The soundtrack in the back is so relaxing. Yeah, I highly encourage, if you have access to just any apps that you can get for free right now, like Headspace, Calm. You can even go on YouTube. That was a sound on YouTube. I just literally put nature sounds, meditation music in YouTube. And I'll just sit even sometimes 5 minutes a day just to start my day or end my day when I'm feeling that anxiety. I just put that on and I just breathe. You can even put guided meditation. So if you want someone to guide you like I just did, very relaxing and did a good stretch. Oh, good, Kroll. I'm so glad. Shervina, I felt tingling in my shoulders during my breathing. Yeah, that's very normal. And it's also very normal if you feel lightheaded or dizzy afterwards, because you're paying attention to your body, right? Your body's like, oh my God, thank you for listening and taking a moment to pause everything else, right? Because if you think about it, we're always like even now, right? Even if we're sheltering in place, we're at home, there's still so much that is coming that we're absorbing. We're moving from one screen to the next screen, like the computer to the phone to the TV to the news. People are calling. Some of you are still working, going out into the field. So it's just this grocery stores, right? So you're constantly bombarded. So when do you actually ever have a moment to yourself? When is that meeting with yourself ever taking place? So if you even take 5 minutes a day and hold that time sacred, over time, that can really help decrease your level of anxiety, decrease your level of reactivity to things. So what happens with meditation as a practice, it really helps to help you have control over your circumstances, over your life. Everything else can feel chaotic, but then you can always go back to your breath. Great way to start the live. Thank you for that. Absolutely. You're so welcome, Matthew. So today I'm going to talk about generalized anxiety disorder. Before I do, any questions about meditation before I move on? We'll circle back to it and end with one. If not, you can always message me on Instagram. I'm happy to share more information. I love this stuff. I do it all myself with clients, and just it does a world of a difference for anxiety. So what anxiety is, under the umbrella of anxiety, there's so many different levels to it, right? You have obsessive compulsive disorder, you have panic disorder. We're going to talk about just general anxiety disorder because many of us are probably struggling with that today, as everything is going on with the news, going on with COVID. Like there's constantly this fear of something happening either to yourself or to a loved one. And so when you begin to have that amount of worry in your body, it has some physical side effects to it. So I'm going to go over what those physical side effects of generalized anxiety disorder is. For some people, they've been living with general anxiety disorder for a long time, even before everything happened in 2020. For some people, this is new. This is new to you. You might not have ever experienced anxiety before, and you're like, what are all these? You might not even be aware. So part of what I hope to give you today is that awareness, so that you understand what is happening in your body. Any recommendations on the anxieties when you hit 30s? Oh yeah, the 30s are, at any age, right? Anxiety can start at any age, any life change, right? When you think about it, what's happening in your 30s, what's happening in your 40s, what's happening in your 50s, 20s, right? Any life transition, any developmental, either milestone or any life change, whether you're graduating college, high school, whether you're entering a new job, like the anxiety is natural, normal. Everybody to some degree will experience anxiety. And I'm going to get on some recommendations on what you can do with anxiety. But just to kind of break it down, anxiety is an ongoing worry that makes it difficult to control, and it interferes with the day-to-day activities of your life. So you might be someone who is impacted. It impacts your job. It impacts your relationships. That anxiety, especially right now, are you going to lose your job? Have you lost your job? How are your relationships impacted? Are you an extrovert and you're not getting enough of that social human-to-human contact? When is this going to end? The economic stuff, right? So all of that is natural to be worried about. So you're not crazy. That's totally normal. We might be in kind of like an anxiety state for some time. So the long-term challenge, 3 things that can help you manage it. Number 1 is making lifestyle changes. You have to adapt to what's happening, right? So making lifestyle changes, that looks like creating boundaries, number 1. Boundaries around how much you're consuming about the news, about the information. Be informed, but if you're finding yourself on the news 24/7, right, that's a lifestyle change that can ultimately indirectly help you with your anxiety and decrease it. Exercise, what are you eating? Things like that, lifestyle changes that can really help with the long-term support of your anxiety. I guess it's okay to not be okay nowadays. Absolutely. If I can leave you with anything, the permission to not be okay is okay. whether it's this time or anything else in your life that happens to be one of the most hardest things that you're dealing with, it's okay to let those feelings also give them permission. Part of anxiety is we're trying to change the way we actually feel. So the body knows it. It's like the mind's so smart. We're built brilliant. And for us to try to fix it, right? Try to numb it, avoid it, it comes back almost in twofold, and then it becomes a panic. So instead, when you actually just like lean into how you feel authentically and give it permission to exist, that's when you begin to find the release. It doesn't necessarily feel good, but you can flow through it. And the things that I can share with you to allow that flow and natural progression to happen, that's going to be what supports anxiety versus trying to numb, push, distract, deny it. So these feelings that you have, sadness, anger, irritability, worry, all of that is okay, and giving it permission to just exist. The other thing is number 2 is learning coping skills. So once you make lifestyle changes, right, then you're learning coping skills. So we just practiced one, we did a meditation. That's one thing that you can learn. And then number 3 is actually using the things that you have, like coping skills. For me, sometimes it's going for a walk, taking a nice warm bath, doing meditation, reading a book, consuming something positive. So those are all ways that you can actually learn and then use the coping skill when you're in that moment of distress. So it's not enough to just practice it here and there. When you kind of build it into your lifestyle, that will serve you in the long run, even after all of this is over. Because if you think about it, we've always lived in uncertainty, right? No one's ever guaranteed anything in life. So to really kind of almost like a mind shift and perspective that we never really had any control. And that's what anxiety is. It wants to control, right? You want the control of the future. When you don't have that control, it feels scary and you panic. And so when you really kind of bring yourself back to the present moment, that's why mindfulness is so helpful, because it actually brings you back to your breath, back into your body, and helps you really understand what is happening versus kind of disassociating and numbing and avoiding. That's when all the other side effects of anxiety come up, where you have trouble sleeping, you feel fatigued, you have headaches, you have stomach aches, you might turn to alcohol and drugs to numb, taking pills, like we all do. Netflix, right? You just numb out, and it's okay to do those things, especially in this time, but in the sense of just being able to just pace yourself and notice what's coming up for you and how your anxiety is showing up. So some symptoms, if you're wondering like what is anxiety, how does it look, right? It's overthinking plans and solutions to all possible worst case scenario outcomes, right? So you're constantly thinking about the worst outcome all the time, right? That persistent overthinking of plans, overthinking of solutions, and it's a constant rumination and the worst case scenario outcome. Number 2, it's difficulty handling uncertainty, the need to control the future. And right now, there's no one in the world right now that can give you the certainty that you need, right? So the difficulty of handling uncertainty. Number 3 is the persistent worrying about a number of areas that are out of proportion to the impact of the event, right? So if something's happening and the amount of persistent worrying you have actually doesn't match the reality of what it actually is. Number 4, perceiving a situation threatening even when it is not. So one thing that I always kind of the analogy of the zebra, when you think about it, zebras in the wild, if they're being perceived that their life is in danger, that they're going to be eaten alive, they run for their life. And then when they're in a safe place, they end up shaking, literally. They go into a convulsion state and they shake out their trauma. So what you all are experiencing, we all are experiencing in this time, was this constant trauma that we're consuming. And if we don't go shake it out, right, this is how anxiety begins to build in the body, begins to build in the mind, and we can literally get physically sick from all that stress and toxicity that we're holding inside. Number 5 is when you have indecisive fear of making the wrong decision. 6 is the inability to set aside or let go of the worry. So you're constantly worrying. Speaking of having trouble sleeping, what's the most effective way to sleep? Right now, I would highly recommend starting with one thing is have a bedtime ritual. If you can begin to just build in a ritual that your body begins to know around a certain time, that's when you are shutting off screens. You are maybe taking 5 minutes to play a meditation, a guided meditation that will help you go to sleep. And that amount of kind of consistency can really help with your brain and your body beginning to remember, oh, this is the time, right? Because it's disrupted. Anxiety, again, it can consume you to the point where your eating habits have changed. So as much consistency you can bring in, as much rituals that you can, predictability you can bring in, because a lot is out of your control, right? So I always talk about the circle of influence, like what can you control? And so your ability to right now control having a bedtime ritual that you take 5 minutes and you meditate before, and you just do it consistently and nothing disrupts it, where you turn on your phone, you put your phone on do not disturb, and just allow yourself that 5 minutes right before bed. And building that habit over time really allows your body and your mind to know, oh, okay, this is a safe place, right? You're all on high alert, you're hypervigilant to what's going on, and so it can become so consuming that it does affect your sleep. The other ways is the inability to relax or feel restless, difficulty concentrating, and then the physical symptoms that can come. So if you're experiencing fatigue, trouble sleeping, like someone mentioned, muscle tension, trembling, sweating, nausea, diarrhea, irritability, all of that is kind of along with the anxiety. It's something bad is going to happen to me or somebody I love. So when to seek help, professional help, because I'm still seeing clients for therapy and I do it virtually, right? So we're just all virtual right now. So number one, if you're having any thoughts of hurting yourself, suicide, absolutely seek immediate treatment. Reach out to a professional, contact the National Suicide Hotline. Number two, if your worries beginning to interfere with work, you're calling out sick, it's interfering with your relationships, your sleep, your day-to-day, that's the time to reach out and ask for help. You can start by asking a friend, and there's tons of free resources online. If you follow my account or YouTube, you can get a ton of free information about how to manage and cope with the anxiety. So that's one offering I would suggest. And then some prevention. So there's 4 things that you can do for prevention. Number one, we just talked about, was get help, right? Because it gets harder the longer you wait. If you avoid, you numb, it begins to get harder to ask for help. So if you're in that state and all of the things that we named right now, we're going to see an increase in mental health. Everyone's affected. If you weren't affected before, you're affected now. So asking for help is not a sign of weakness, especially in our community. I'm a therapist and I went to therapy a number of times. It's a beautiful place where you get to discover yourself. You hear yourself talk out loud. You hear your patterns. You begin to deepen that self-awareness. You begin to notice why you do certain things. You understand how your past in childhood, things that maybe your parents said, things that happened at school, things that are happening in the world now or at work. You begin to understand how all of that is actually impacting you, and you get to decide how you want to interact with that, how you want to respond to that. So therapy is such a beautiful place, and I know in terms of access, that's one area that really sucks. Excuse my whatever word. I could say that word. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. I'm so passionate about this. But so seek help, seek support. If you don't know where to start, DM me on Instagram. I'm more than happy to send you resources, send you people, send you information. Number 2, keep a journal. So what I also do with my clients right now, we talk about cognitive behavioral therapy. So what that means is when you think something, you feel something, and action happens. So think about it in these 3 parts. I think, I feel, I do. I think, I feel, I do. So when you think something, right, you think a thought. What's your Instagram? Eidit Choochage. It's on the Syrian Civic clubs, they tagged me. So you can go there, and I might be able to add it here. But so I think, I feel, I do. When you think something, you feel something, and that results to an action, right? Does that make sense? So I think something about myself. Let's just say, for example, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for X, this job promotion. I'm not gonna apply for it because I don't think I'm gonna get it. Right? That's a thought, and we have thousands, millions of thoughts a day, right? So you have this thought, I don't think I'm gonna get this job promotion. So then you feel, after that comes a feeling of lack of worthiness. You don't feel, oh, thank you, Shervina. A feeling of hopelessness, like I'm not good enough. And then you start feeling sad. You might feeling mad, and you start to turn that inwards. So then the action, what you do, you might medicate through. For me, I'm an emotional eater, right? I'll go to carbs, I'll go to sweets to try to numb the original thought, right? So I think I'm not worthy. Right? Anyone who's single right now and trying to date, and then all these ghosting is happening, right? So that can leave you feeling like, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. So you think that, you feel sad, you feel mad, you feel not worthy, and then you do. It's an action. You eat, you smoke, you drink, you sleep in, like whatever it is, you numb, you avoid, you distract. So what therapy does is begin to, when you journal, so that's why the second thing I said that can help with your anxiety is keep a journal, and I talk to my clients about this, is track your patterns. So then you can actually begin to understand, what do I do when I have this thought, right? Remove it objectively, and don't look at it as an emotional thing. Just look at it as a very objective thing. You think something, you feel, it causes a chain reaction to feeling something, and then an action happens. So if you ever want to change a behavior, if you're like, I don't want to turn to ice cream when I feel like crap. Well, go to the original place where it took you. You started with a thought, and begin to bring a different narrative in that can help give you a different end result. So I think, I feel, I do. So if you can start thinking in a way that allows the end result not to have you do the thing that you're doing that is making your life miserable, then you need to work on the thought. So keeping a journal, it just allows you to understand what is happening and understanding yourself more. So for just a week, just track your thoughts. Something happens, someone says something to you, they send you a message, you get into a fight with somebody you love, you're consuming information, whatever it is, something's happened at work, right? Journal it. What is the thought? How did it make you feel? And then what action did it lead to? Just have 1 week where you're just recording data on yourself. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Don't even try to change it, right? Because you can't treat something that you don't even know exactly the root cause. So take the time to actually do the inventory and understand yourself. So even if it's at the end of the day, for a couple minutes, just write what happened, one situation that got you, just upset, or something came out of it that didn't feel good. What was the original thought? What did you do? How did it feel? And so when you do that, then you begin to understand, oh, okay, this is the kind of the pain point for me. You find a common thread. Number 3 is boundaries. The other thing, especially in the Assyrian community, right? Boundaries is that all boundaries is understanding yourself and what you need, and making your lifestyle according to that. So in our culture, it's beautiful that we really just, we're very involved in each other's life. It comes from good intent. It comes from a lot of love, curiosity, and that's how we show love, right? It's to know what's going on in each other's life. It's to be available for each other at all times of the day, right? That's how you show you just care and you love someone. Beautiful thing, but it can also have this side effect where you become a people pleaser, and your whole identity becomes, if I don't help this person, if I don't become available 24/7, if I don't share all my business, then I'm a bad friend, I'm a bad daughter, I'm a bad son, I'm a bad husband, wife, whatever, insert, right? So you begin to really blame yourself. And those are the thoughts, again, go back to I think, I feel, I do, right? That can create such a narrative and end up ultimately having a life that you feel upset about. So having boundaries, you don't want to be too loose where anyone has access to you 24/7, or you give your information willingly when you really don't want to. You keep apologizing, you keep being available, right? At the expense of your own sanity. You might not even be in a good emotional place, but yet you keep saying yes when you really mean no. So your boundaries are too loose. On the other end, you don't want to be too rigid where you're just off the grid, living on your own, no social human contact. You also we're designed to be in relationship with other humans, and we have a beautiful culture. So you don't want to be too rigid, you don't want to be too loose, you want to be right in the middle where your boundaries really are there to serve and protect that season in your life. That is so important. It evolves with time, right? So there might be a time in your life where you don't want to share all your business right now. You don't want to talk about what's going on. You aren't available to help. You aren't available to answer the phone, whatever the case may be. So you might start there and just say, I am going to turn my phone off for an hour a day. You just put it on airplane mode. That's how I started. I started to notice my cup was so empty. I was so exhausted by being available, right? My job is already demanding. And then I was having a lot of family stuff going on. So I was constantly just inundated by serving and showing up for everybody else. And there was zero time for me. So then I started to get angry and upset and ungrateful. And it just didn't feel good. And that's not who God made me to be, right? I wasn't designed to be a miserable, suffering human. So I had to understand in that season of my life, I actually needed to create boundaries of how much access people had to me. That I did go on airplane mode when I was taking care of myself, when I was meditating, when I was going for a walk. For folks who are parents, and that might not be readily available to you, right? Boundaries might look different to you. So where you can find other times, maybe you wake up a little bit earlier before the kids, or you stay up a little bit after when they go to bed, and just find a few minutes here and there for yourself. But you're really protecting and preserving your energy so that your cup, you fill it back up. I always talk to my clients too about what fills your cup back up, right? So when you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out, you're depressed, it's your cup, you're empty, you're wiped out. Like, why are you answering your phone? Why are you saying yes to people, right? It's that noticing, that narrative of, I'm a bad friend if I don't answer right now. When reality, right, if we check it, it's not that. That's us being in our own head, in our own mind, telling us a story. It's a belief that we associated a feeling to, right? A belief is just a belief. We just prescribe our feelings to it. A belief is objective, but we turn it into something subjective, and we decide, this is good, this is bad. So when you break that down, when you journal and you get to see the reality of what you need, you begin to have those boundaries in place that really preserve and protect your peace right now in this moment, in this season of your life. So that might mean not answering the text right away, not answering the call right away. If someone brings up something and they want to talk to you about it and say, right now, actually, I'm not in a good place, or I don't want to talk about it right now. You don't need to say anything else, right? We have been conditioned to have to give more than what we're willing and wanting to do. And then when we do it, we get mad at that person versus saying, that was actually on me. I need to take self-responsibility and say, I didn't need to do that. I believed and trained and thought that I needed to. So let me evaluate how I can show up differently. Does that make sense? Any questions about boundaries? I have a whole podcast episode on boundaries. So if that was interesting to you, definitely also tune into that for more information and go into more details. But the last thing, number 4, right? So this is how to prevent anxiety. Number 1 was to get help, seek support, talk to a friend, reach out to a therapist, find things online. There's tons of free resources. If you go to my page, I constantly am sharing other therapists that you can follow. I feel like you're speaking directly to me, right? Like, we're mirrors for each other. Like, I feel you. Like, I'm also a Syrian. I know what our culture is like and how beautiful it is, but also how demanding it is, but how we were taught. And our parents didn't know any different. They did a beautiful job by, right? Like, it was survival mode. They most of them immigrated, and they're just living on survival mode to make ends meet and to build this new life for us. And then there's no time for like that emotional uncovering, that self-discovery, right? So we just constantly, we're a product of our environment. And until we get to this point where we start having side effects, right? Like the anxiety, the depression, mental health has always existed, but it's now just skyrocketing with everything. This is the time to really pause and evaluate, what season in my life am I in? What boundaries do I need to put in place? What help, what extra support do I need to have, right? For me, I went to therapy, and then I started to unpack all my stuff there. And then from that, I went to just getting myself more involved in live seminars, other like books, podcasts, just consuming myself with like-minded individuals. And over time, that really helped me to then get a life coach, and really kind of, life is happening constantly to us. So we can all benefit from having that extra support. That doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, I live on analogies, and we have some time for it, but I always go back to this analogy of this axe, right? So there's 2 people, they're in the forest, and they're both in a competition to chop down a tree, right? So they both have an axe equally sharp, and one person is about to chop that tree down, and the other person ends up going and taking a break. They're like, peace out, I'm gonna go for a few minutes and go sharpen my axe, and then I'll come back. And the other person looks at them and is like, you're a fool, I'm about to beat you. That person goes, sharpens their axe, comes back, and they end up chopping the tree down. And the teaching behind that is that you deserve a break. Right? You deserve to go take that break and go sharpen your axe, whatever that needs to look like for you. So getting the help, you're actually getting ahead rather than spinning in the same cycle over and over and over like a hamster wheel. And it's exhausting, and I've been in it. Even as a therapist, I've been in it, right? I even knew this stuff, but it's like, sometimes you just got to say, like, let go of the ego, let go of the pride, let go of all of that, and say, I need help. And that's going to get you further along to where you want to be, where you want to go, whatever dreams you have, goals you have, relationships. Like, it just completely transforms your life when you get that. So you become that person in the forest with the axe, where you go and sharpen it, get stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, get to learn about yourself. What a beautiful gift. You're with yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well understand yourself earlier on than wait longer. And then you come back and you are much more sharper from that standpoint. You're much more clear about what you want. You're much more focused on, you have kind of a focused understanding of what you need, and then the boundaries around yourself. And the last thing, meditation, right? So get help, keep a journal to track boundaries, just to help reduce the anxiety about what you need, and mindfulness. So again, the teachings of bringing yourself back to the present moment. So anxiety is all about control. It's all about future focus and trying to focus on how you can control what's to come. When you don't have that, you have to just accept that you can't control everything, and you return back to the present moment and getting to know yourself and what you need, what fills up the ingredients in your cup to fill it up, so you can pour from that place, so you can live an optimal life, you can have wellness, I know that there was a question, do you think someone's anxiety can be worse or get worse if they aren't able to fully open up and be their true self due to how their family was raised or their beliefs? Again, I think it goes back to great analogy. I live on analogies. Good question. At the end of the day, it just goes back to awareness. How aware do you want to be? I thinking about good or bad, worse, or it's all about quality of life. So you have to ask yourself that question: what kind of quality of life do I want to have? How do I want to experience my life? Do I want to take risks and go out there and just live my life to the fullest and build a business, build my dreams? Or how is my life being shaped right now by the beliefs that I've inherited or I've adopted, and I'm not challenging them, and therefore I have anxiety, I have depression, I'm numbing, I'm avoiding, and my quality of life it's not there, right? I'm miserable. So again, it goes back to how aware do you want to become? How important is your quality of life to you? And you begin to make your decisions based from that place. And there's plenty of access at this point because we have technology, thank God, to be able to really adopt wellness into your life. And I think going to therapy helps and excels that process, right? It's the axe, right? You have sharpen your axe, go get the help, inundate yourself with there's tons of free, even therapists are putting out so much free information on YouTube, on podcasts, on Instagram, on Facebook. So you have access to all of that information. You can begin doing the work and you getting to decide what you ultimately need in your life and what's going to work for you to give you that quality of life. For me, I was working in a job just 9 to 5, 24/7, miserable, constantly responding to everybody's needs. Family needed me, friends needed me. I'm planning a wedding. I was dealing with my own depression, and meanwhile, you have to get to a point where you're like, enough is enough. And I don't know what that enough is for you or anyone there, but you know yourself well enough where you're like, I can't anymore. I can't even stand myself, right? You get to a point where you're like, I can't stand. First it's other people, right? You're angry at other people. Why is this person calling me? Why is everyone so needy, right? My job, my boss, this, that, right? And you get to a point where you're like, hold on. What is going on for me? What am I struggling with that I've now have taught people how to treat me, right? We're teaching people how to treat us. My YouTube channel is the same, Eidit Choochage. You can just Google it, podcast, YouTube. It's all on there. But we begin to really become intentional about how people have access to you and how your thoughts really shape your life, right? Your belief systems shape your life. And so until you take moments like we just did earlier on, we did a meditation, and you scan your body, you scan your thoughts without judgment, right? The most important thing is to remove the shame, because it's not, right? We grew up, it's not your fault. Everything that's going on out of your control, if you were a child growing up, especially in our culture, a lot of it is learned behavior. And so until you begin to challenge what doesn't work for you anymore, that's when you begin to actually do something differently. Awareness is, if you don't have awareness, you can't change anything you're not aware of. But once you become aware of it, you're like, oh, I say yes a lot. And then I'm mad at that person because I said yes. When really that tells me I didn't insert a boundary. I didn't communicate to that person that I'm not available right now, but hey, I love you and I'll call you tomorrow. I'm taking care of me right now. That's all. Right? Easier said than done. And this is why getting help, having a life coach, having a therapist can really help kind of be that axe for you in the forest. Because really over time, you take enough action, you get enough awareness of yourself and what you need, and you give yourself that. Over time, it just builds and builds, and your confidence builds and your awareness builds. And then your quality of life ultimately is the thing that changes. You end up having a quality of life that is on your terms, that you're happy, that you're, you can look back at your life and say, oh man, like I lived my best life. Like I lived it on my terms, rather than blaming other people for your unhappiness. Thank you for your information. Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I know we're coming up on time, so I want to respect that. And we'll just end with a closing activity. And you can keep doing this on your own. So if you have a pen or paper nearby, if you don't, just remember this. It's a really simple activity you could do. Just take one thing that you're worried about and draw a circle, literally like that. I don't know if you can see, right? And I call this the circle of influence. And I do this with my clients all the time. So what's in your control and what's out of your control, everything else. So everything that we talked about. And I want you to think about one pain point in your life, one area in your life that you are struggling with. It could be relationships, it could be work, it could be, anything, everything. Career, lifestyle. And so what's happening in the world right now, and draw two circles. So the inner circle, it's what you control. That's your circle of influence. So everything in that circle, we talked about boundaries, right? You have control over what boundaries you insert in your life and you express. You have control over if you put your phone on airplane mode, how much news you're consuming. You have control. It might not feel like it right now. If you're struggling with anxiety and depression, it might not feel like you have control over your thoughts, but you do, right? But in that circle of influence, you can control what you consume to help you get to that level where you feel like you're in control of your thoughts. So really begin to break down your reaction, your response, what you consume, what you're reading, who you're around, whether you choose to get involved in one conversation or not, whether you pick up the phone, whether you say yes, whether you say no, right? So everything that you begin to feel like, this is what I can control, right? Whether you wear a mask, don't wear a mask, whether you call a loved one to tell them how much you love them and you're worried about them, or you do grocery run to help somebody, like everything that you're worried about, like do this exercise and just start with one thing, one area that you're worried about, and just break and drill down everything in the circle of what you can control. And it's all self-driven, what you can control. Give yourself credit. You can control a lot more than what you think you can. Your brain and your body was designed to help you win, to help you elevate, to help you get enlightened, to help you live your best life. It wasn't designed to break you down. Your body and mind were not designed to put you down, right? Society and the beliefs that we consumed and adopted ended up being the thing that broke us down. So we just have to begin to unpack those things. Then on the outside of the circle, it's everything outside of your control. So that's other people's reactions, other people's responses. So if you have a boundary and you stated your boundary and someone wants to get mad at you, they get mad at you, right? This is in the outside. It's out of your control. And so you begin to practice like meditation or mindfulness and things to just allow that feeling of guilt or feeling bad, right? It could be there, you could be aware of it, but you allow this process, you flow through it. Kind of when we talked about earlier on, when anxiety shows up, you can just breathe through it. Your breath is the most accessible, free, available thing to you at all times, as long as you're alive, right? And don't have a tube in your mouth. So if you have your breath, you have everything that you need to thrive. You just have to remember and focus and remember that, and not to shame anything that you feel, not to shame if you feel guilty, if you feel bad, if you feel mad, if you feel sad. Just allow that permission for your feeling to exist and then release from that place. So any last questions? This was a lot of fun. I know it was a lot of information. We talked about anxiety and how you can use meditation and mindfulness to really combat some of that. And then we talked about what's in your control and what's out of your control, and just doing exercise that I just gave you right now. It's a simple one, and just thinking about it, and then just put all your energy in what you can control and let go of everything else. It doesn't require, not everything needs your attention. Not everyone needs your attention. You get to decide and dictate where your energy goes, and keep in that middle, like that circle of influence. Just even if you have to imagine it in your mind and you're stressed out, breathe and be like, what's in my circle of influence right now? And stand in that. Absolutely, Kroll. Yeah, so happy you all joined. I'm going to sign off so the next person can get on. Thank you, Syrian American Civic Club. Thanks, everyone. This was so much fun. Absolutely, Matthew, you're welcome. All my love, blessings, wishes of rest, peace for everyone. Whatever you're going through, just know that there's always someone willing to be on the other end, to hear you, listen, and be of a support to you. Just reach out at any time. I'm more than happy to give free resources to anyone who does. So, bye. Take care.